This episode of Small Business Leaders Podcast is brought to you by Adams Lane Photography. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Small Business Leaders Podcast. My name is Audra Adams.
And I'm Lamar Powell, and I am excited today to have our guest with us, David Fitzpatrick, who owns Fitz on Main, and we're looking forward to his story. We also have April's Lancaster, right? April's with us as well. I think she is his right-hand woman, and a big help to him, and we're excited about hearing their story. They've had some tragedy recently. We want to kind of dive into that a little bit and then hear about their plans for the future.
So welcome, Fitz and April, to our podcast. And we definitely had, this was not a really planned far in advance podcast because there were some extenuating circumstances.
For sure.
And we're going to get into all of that. And so first of all, I want to just have you tell everybody what your business is and what the name of it is.
I'm David Fitzpatrick. The name of our little grill, 1947 grill, is Fitz on Main.
Fitz. And you actually prefer to go by Fitz.
Yes, ma'am.
He called me a ma'am.
It's a Southern thing.
It's a Southern thing. And now, April, as Lamar mentioned, you are Fitz's right-hand woman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been his right-hand woman?
We opened in 2009, so many years.
You were there from the very beginning.
From the very beginning, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so this is a restaurant.
It is. Small little grill, for sure.
Tell us how small.
It's 9 feet wide by 78 feet long.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I want you to know that I didn't grow up in Kernersville. So more Winston and Lexington is my kind of, hangout. I knew places around there. But even though we had been in this building, it's so small. I had passed so many times and had no idea that, I saw your sign, but I didn't know what it meant. And then this is where you could come in and say how we really found out about you.
Yeah, so one day we love the type of diner that you have.
Thank you.
For a lot of reasons. And back home, we had one called Sharp's Bakery, and they're no longer in business, but that was our hometown go-to spot. And when I was in the fire department, oftentimes we would get finished before daylight. We would go there and get our breakfast or coffee, and it was just a great hangout. We do lunch there all the time. So when we moved here, we really fell in love with Kernersville. And one day my wife called me. I found a spot. I think you're going to like this. And it's so narrow. She even sent me a picture. And she said, the food's incredible, and I really enjoyed myself. So you and I are going to have to come back and go. And we ended up doing that.
Yeah, and then she tells her brother, who is my husband.
Okay.
And so one day, my husband said that he was going to drive me to work and wait for me while I worked here. And he was on, some new way of eating. He wanted to meal prep, and I was like in it to win it with him.
Right.
And I got done with work, and I got in the car, and I said, "Hey, honey, do we need to go to the store and get meal prep stuff?" And he was like, "Well, actually, I decided to go to Fitz," and he said, "I met him." And I think he met you as well. And I just told him to make me whatever was the best thing. And they brought me out this amazing, was it a smash burger?
It was a smash burger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting it right today. He's like, Audra. And he's like, we have to go back there. But it all started from his wife telling him who told, So then when we go, I wanted to come as well. And then about a month ago, y'all's life changed, and the scene on Main Street of Kernersville has changed as well. And so I want to get into that because that is what we are wanting to highlight for your business right now. What happened?
It's not the story that one wants to tell, but you get that call at 12 o'clock at night. And I have a bad habit of keeping my cell phone away from the bedroom. Luckily, my wife's phone was there at the bedroom, and we get a call from April.
So I got the call.
Oh, you got the call.
I got
Because
the
the
call.
fire department couldn't reach me. So one of the lessons to it all is you always have access to a phone wherever you are at all times, and April's been preaching that to me. And I haven't done that until just recently. I thought about that. But so April called, and you could tell right away she couldn't finish the sentence.
What was it like for you, April, to get that call?
When your phone rings at midnight, you're thinking it's your children, you know.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, well, my children are home. What is happening? And he said, are you April from Fitz on Main? This is the Kernersville Police Department. There's smoke coming out of your building. How fast can you be here? And I don't really remember after that what I said. I don't know. I don't really remember driving up. All I remembered was thinking, oh, it's just the fryer. It smoked up the building. I turned the hood off, and so it just smoked it up. Because we actually had that happen with one of our other cooks before. And then I thought, if it didn't, then what did I leave on? Because I am the cook.
Oh, okay.
So did I leave the grill on? Did I leave the fryer on? What has happened? And when I got there, thank goodness there was a fireman that he was like, ma'am, you have to calm down. And I was like, no, I need to get in that building right now. He goes, ma'am, you can't go in that building right now. I said, no, I need to go in that building right now because I needed to know for myself what started the fire, what was happening inside the building. It was a terrible feeling.
I know. I mean, I can't imagine all of those things running through your mind. And logic says, no, you don't go in there.
Right,
but
right.
your heart was like, I got to know, I got to know. And, wow,
Yes.
So you call Fitz.
Well, of course, I call the cell phone
Right.
that he doesn't answer.
We're not bitter about
Okay,
that.
we're not bitter at all.
But we hear it in the voice still.
And then we call the house phone. Nobody answers. And so I have Jan's number, and I call Jan, and no answer. And my son came. He heard me go out the door, and so he said, where's Mom going? And he came up, and he was like my little helper and was really good about it. And so he had both phones on both ears, trying to call him on both phones. And I think he got you first.
He did.
And then he handed me the phone, and I don't know what I said, but
You couldn't talk. I mean, it was so by hearing the stress and anxiety in your voice, we knew there was an issue. And all I heard was grill and fire, and then that's all was said.
I want to stop right here and go ahead and put up for our viewers. And then those of you listening, we will kind of explain what we're looking at right now on the screen. Why don't y'all tell us when this picture was taken? This is of the restaurant.
So this is the inside of the restaurant, and it was on the morning of May 29th, and we were not busy. And I said, oh, let me take this picture. I'll post it on Facebook and say, hey, where are all of our customers? And now this was the last picture of our little diner, the way we loved it. So I'm glad I have that picture.
I'm glad you
You
do
know,
too.
I didn't know I had that picture till we were looking for pictures.
What part of this diner, whether it be the decorations or where things were placed, I mean, how much of that did you have a hand in, April?
All of it.
All of it.
I mean, we had in January of 2020, we redid it. So this paint on these walls, I
You
did.
picked it.
Yeah.
This stuff on the bottom, I did. You know, we rehung all the pictures. We recovered all the stools. So, and then COVID hit. And so then we were closed and nobody could come in. So it's been a interesting little roller coaster for
I
a
bet.
while. But
So this was around noon or
This
so?
was at 10:30.
10:30, sorry.
Yep, 10:30 on the morning of May 29th.
And then we're going to flip the picture.
On that Wednesday.
Yep, on that
and
Wednesday.
And that Kernersville sign, back up one, Daniel. In the Kernersville sign, is that the sign that was in the back of the pickup truck? You had a picture I saw on social media. That's a big sign.
It is a big
sign in the truck.
All right, and this is just
That's the aftermath.
a few hours
That's,
later.
right afterwards, and we could see just the extent of the damage. And of course, on the left, you see the sheetrock that burned, and it was the fire. It's about the soot. I didn't realize just how heavy and how it just leaves a footprint everywhere. And then the pictures on the right were pictures of my family. And my dad, especially in that back left, that 8 o'clock picture is my dad. He was a belly gunner in World War II. And I carry his dog tags with me everywhere I go. And so, yeah, so those are pictures of our family when we made a trip to Ireland. And he always wanted to go to Ireland and never made it. So that picture of there at 4 o'clock, the back right, bottom right, is we find this quaint little Irish town, and we kind of smuggled some of his ashes over from the USA.
Good for you.
And we found the perfect spot to rest his soul.
Oh, wow. Are those, I mean, they're still...
They're salvageable.
Yeah, that's what I'm...
Yeah, that's, and that's one of the first things we looked at. Because we can... Those will go back on the wall.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. And do we have any more? Yes. So explain to me what we're seeing here.
That is the night of the fire, which is actually Thursday morning, the 30th. Mm-hmm. And that's when we got our first walkthrough, just so that we can see the extent of the damages. And that's looking towards the back. And that's in the dining area, the picture on the right. And the picture on the left shows just the extreme heat, because that's the bathroom wall, and it had a half inch of sheetrock on it, and it had melted the sheetrock. So you're seeing, the neat thing about the building is it was built in the 40s, back before it had a lot of building codes, and so you're looking at a wall that doesn't even belong to us. You say, well, who does it belong to? It actually belongs to the people that are beside us. When Charlie Snow built the building originally, he actually didn't build it. All he did was put a roof over it and use the walls from the two other existing buildings. And he bought the alley for $400. That's the uniqueness of the.
Yeah, I want to get into the history of this, but as the fire department and everything, they're calling this a total loss. What is the extent that you can tell us or share with us?
And that's a really good question, because we're still trying to find the extent, and we're a month out now, exactly, and we're still trying to get the cost of what it's going to take to bring this little grill back. But it could always be worse. And one of the things that we learned in this fire, in that picture to the right, in the backs where the bathrooms were, the thing that really saved not only what we have existing and what really maybe saved the city block was there was a spring on the door. Mm-hmm. And that spring on that door kept the fire contained in that bathroom. So all the heat and fire went up through the roof and out that way. So it didn't blow the door open where it could have
had the oxygen feed it and spread.
And which could have been catastrophic, not for us. But
and well, to put it into context where your business is, it is kind of like an alleyway. So you are is it a city block of businesses? Is that what you would say?
We're sandwiched between a art frame studio, a 1920s building, and another 1920 building that has apartments upstairs. It has a hair salon, and it has a boutique. So, I mean, they're old buildings, and they had apartments on both sides.
Did they all sustain fire or smoke damage?
Yeah, the framing studio has
You got to get in your
lots
mind.
of smoke damage. So they still are dealing with that. But the people that lived upstairs had to be evacuated that night, and the Red Cross assisted them, so that was good. But no other damage as far as fire, just the smoke. But the smoke is awful.
Yeah, it is.
It's so awful.
So, walking up here, I noticed the wind's out of the north today. So the wind's blowing right down North Main Street. And that's the way the wind was blowing the night of our fire. So our neighbor downwind of us got the smoke damage. And they're still having repercussions from that. The building next to us, up from us, upwind, operated the next day.
Wow.
Because the smoke didn't get into their businesses.
Are y'all aware of the cause? Have they come out to say what it is?
They did. It's there were two investigations. The Kernersville Fire Department was that night. They brought their fire inspector in, and that's why we couldn't enter the building until he had completed his investigation. And then there was another one. The insurance company does their own investigation.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so it was determined that a light was left on in the bathroom, and that light is one switch and has an exhaust fan on it as well. So we left a light and an exhaust fan on in a bathroom, and apparently that overheated during the night, and so that box kept getting hotter and smoldering, and then the insurance investigator said with that dust on top of it, that was the tinder that was needed to ignite a fire. Oh, wow. And so
The smallest.
and
of
a $120 fan, and there's going to be close to our building's going to probably be close to over $300,000 in rebuild to bring it back.
How overwhelming does that feel right now?
You know, that's a great question.
You go through all these emotions, and they
Right.
change probably by the moment,
Yes,
I would think.
by the moment.
So, April, how overwhelming does it feel right now?
I mean, just every day is such a, you're not in control. You have no control of what's happening. And we like to be in control,
Sure.
you know, as human beings. And so it's just a very frustrating. And let's see what has happened today. I've cried. I've been angry. I've been happy. I mean, so there's just, and we got a little bit of closure today because we were able to talk to our insurance guy and he explained more things because now it's a month and I'm like, just give me the money.
Right.
And that's not how this works.
Right.
You know, we have to send in estimates and we have to do this. But he's been very supportive and coming out and answering my questions. So
We are a small business podcast, so you explaining when things go wrong, what is the process, is actually something that I feel like our listeners and our viewers need to know about. So you don't just get the money when they call it a total loss.
right.
So you have to get estimates from contractors, electricians, HVAC, and I know I'm leaving stuff out. Y'all go ahead.
Which is a cleanup process to get
Right,
it
to
to
begin
a
with.
place to actually start building again. It's such a huge, all of it, a huge process
You're
for
right,
you
Lamar.
guys.
It's like peeling back an onion. And when you think you get to one stage so you can get closer to rebuild, then you find out there's something else that has to happen. If you'll see the picture there on the right, you see that's sheetrock. And so, we tear that sheetrock out.
on the ceiling,
On
that's
the
sheetrock
ceiling.
Right,
on the
that-
ceiling.
yeah.
Yes.
But then they determined, wait a minute here, we better test it to make sure it doesn't have asbestos. So they tested it, and it had a 2%. The tape they used back in 1947 to cover those spaces had asbestos. So we had to bring in an abatement team to do that. So that was a week that we lost there. And then the abatement team took all that sheetrock out. Great, that one step closer so we can start getting towards the rebuild. And then we found behind that sheetrock was a tongue and groove wooden ceiling. It looks really good. And I said, well, cool, we'll keep that. But you can't keep that because above that tongue and groove wooden ceiling is where all the insulation is. And that insulation is carrying that odor of all that soot,
Smoke.
and smoke, and it has to come out. And so today we found out at 8 o'clock, we're going, gosh, how do we get this ceiling out? A friend of mine who's a carpenter came out and said, Fitz, it's going to take you a while to do this. You've got to be very intricate with it. It's got to come out. And another friend came in that's helping us in the rebuild, said, well, let me make a phone call because this is going to take a while. And he made a call to a guy in Raleigh. And at 1:30 today, a team from Raleigh came, and they're in our building right now, removing that wooden ceiling and taking all that smoke damaged insulation out of our building. So at 8 o'clock, I'm going, oh no, now how are we going to get all this? This is going to be 2 weeks getting this out, and they're working on it as we speak.
Well,
So those are the little,
rays of sunshine.
Right.
and that's what keeps us going and motivates us. Is just like when there's appearance of a dead end, then life's about finding the end around, right? And finding the plan B and plan C. So there's a lot of plan Bs and Cs.
Why is it so important to you to open back?
Well, I think there's a lot of history in that building, and I got a lot of memories when I was a kid there.
Tell me about that.
When I was in elementary school, back when they had World Series games during the day, and before the TV bought the rights and would broadcast them at night, my buddies and I would ride our bikes from school to Charlie Snow's so we could sit, because he had one of the few color TVs in town, and we'd order some fries, and Charlie would be kind enough to let us sit there for 2.5 hours, 3 hours to watch a baseball game. So there's those ties. And, you know, when I retired as a school principal 15, 16 years ago, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just retire. And this was a perfect transition for me. And I thought, that'd be great. We'll just serve hamburgers and hot dogs. And it didn't take long for me to realize that people aren't coming to our grill to eat hamburgers and hot dogs. They're coming for a place, just so that they can have dialogue with people, and so it's become more than just a place to eat.
You're their Charlie Snow.
Right now I am. I don't know how much longer I'll last. So somebody out there listening, we're looking for the next generation of Charlie Snows.
No, I mean, because if somebody doesn't step up, that way of life, that dies. And I feel like that is so very, very important and intricate that we make memories in not just I have more in my generation. I've got memories of, you know, this one place I used to go to get orangeades, and they would freshly squeeze them and sit at the bar just like that, and that's gone. I barely got my children to have that experience before that was gone. So anybody younger than 17 or 18 years old probably doesn't have this kind of place to have grown up in and have that dialogue and go to a place where, you know, I feel like I'm about to sing Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it's become. And we didn't set out for that to happen. It just evolved. Yeah.
Well, I think that you seem to be, and to be principal. How long were you principal?
I was a principal for 20 years, 17 of them at Kernersville Elementary School. And the neat thing is, with the ties to the community, my dad was the principal at Kernersville Elementary School for 18 years.
wow.
So there are some teachers that had Fitzpatrick for over 30 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And that is crazy. So, that's that little neat tie to the community.
I feel like I read somewhere that you were really glad to be able to take over from your dad, because you really didn't have to fire anybody because he had hired so many good people.
Pop said, son, hire the best you can and stay out of their way. And so I've tried to take that advice, and it was a great staff. It was a great run. the best years of my life were spent there at Kernersville Elementary School. So when it was time to retire, and I was becoming a dinosaur and things were changing, I still love people, and this was a great transition for me, and so I can still visit and talk to folks and make a connection and see so many former students, and now they're grown. In fact, we have a student that's working with us, and he's 32 years old.
That I mean, that's definitely
That's cool.
some full circle
Full circle.
moments. And now, how did you come into the picture, April?
So I worked at the school.
Okay.
Yes, I was the secretary in the office, and every year he would say, "Now, when I retire, I think I want to open this little hot dog stand. Do you want to come in and do the payroll and the bookkeeping?" No. Okay. And the next year would go, and he would say the same thing. And so by the time it was time to retire, I was only working part-time at the school, and I was like, well, maybe this would be okay. I'll keep it the way, because, when I was at the school, I could be off in the summers with my kids. And I was like, now that's got to stand. I want to be off in the summers. And I was a waitress and a bookkeeper and a payroll and everything. It's not just one thing. You dive in all the way. Now, I was not the cook then. So we had cooks along the way. But he said, okay, I'm retiring in January. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay. And so we learned. I mean, you can learn anything you want to, and you can be anything you want to be. And I made a restaurant, and I can cook. I mean, there are just so many things you go. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, now, when you were in high school, did you go, oh, I can't wait to cook at that little diner. That's what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm like, no, that was not in the plan. But it is fueled by the people. I mean, and that's why we can't stop.
Right.
What would happen?
Right.
I mean, even now, we have several I went to breakfast with some of the guys the other day. I'm like, well, I can actually sit down and eat with you guys. This is so fun, and people come and they just sit with us. Stevie sitting with us
And help
we were
with
working,
cleanup.
and he's just sitting there, and he's just a great guy. And Miss Ann today brought us a gift by. People have been.
Every day there's somebody else stop by and just stick there, just to motivate us and give us a word of encouragement and what can we do. And that's, out of a tragedy are blessings. And man, it's made me a better person, for sure.
How?
Well, you don't take anything for granted. And B, when the chips are down, there are still people that will pick you up and carry you on. And so it's made me a better person. So when somebody else experiences a difficult time, I will respond a little bit differently instead of sending out a text message. Just your presence, just by stopping by, just by a hug. There are a lot of ways that you can show people that we're there for you, and that has been I've said to somebody the other day that I'm the richest man in Kernersville. That's the George Bailey comment with "It's a Wonderful Life," because when you have friends, then you're very wealthy, and we're blessed with a whole bunch of them.
And I think I love that, especially in a community like this, with a business like you have, to love people like you have through the years. There's no doubt you've done that because they're showing that love back.
Right.
I think it's just such a wonderful thing, and it's a great story that needs to be heard out in the communities. If business owners, it's not always, check this box, check that box. It's also about relationships, and what you provide is a wonderful thing. And you hear it all around. People talk about that, and they miss you dearly. And I'm so thankful they've stepped up to encourage
It seems like
you both.
the town wants
yeah.
you back. We all want Fitz.
yeah.
Didn't
back.
anticipate that strong of a response.
Right.
I really didn't.
Really?
No, I didn't.
I don't think it always happens that way, but I think sometimes it does. And I think that's what resonated with me is like, wow, and And so again, I think it goes back to the personalities involved. I mean, you were involved in school, you were involved in school. Those relationships, you deal with that every day
Right.
with people's kids and all, and it's kind of translated into your business. And yeah, I think it's great.
You know, we started right during the recession in 2009. So everybody's going, what are you thinking? But, you know, sometimes you go against the tide. And then we survived. Here comes COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of places closed down, particularly the small little diners out there in the country. And now the fire. And so, you know, you want to end on your terms. And so we've gone through some battles, and so we'll end on our term. And no, we're not going to have Fitz on Main forever, but we're going to build it back because it's a challenge to us, and it's the motivation that we've survived tough times, and with all the support that we've received, we're going to build it back again.
Yeah.
I mean, inspired is not a strong enough word for what I'm hearing and sitting in the presence
Thank you.
of right now. You can tell that you both, but definitely as the leader of this restaurant and as a leader in the school system, seeing your father lead the school system, you definitely have grit in there, like that.
A lot of rust too.
There's a lot of rust, but
A lot of rust.
but
Thank you.
You know, there's determination, and I think that within any business, there's many times for far less reasons that we would throw up our hands
Right.
and say,
Right.
this must be meaning that we shouldn't
A sign.
continue. Like, there's a sign here.
Right.
And like the whole city is like, no, no, you know.
Right.
And I see that leadership quality, which I feel like then produces like April right here and your other employees, that they're willing to go to the edge and like, let's do
Yeah.
this thing. So to me, that is very inspiring.
Thank you.
And something that I want to learn from, and I hope to emulate in some form.
Well, I
or
like
fashion.
y'all's relationship. Just about, I mean, I don't know you guys. I've been in. You know, I met you in the restaurant one time. You came over and sat down with my wife and I, and we had a conversation. I see the humility, the appreciation to the community, and you've done that. But I also know I was a little bit worried because when you have something like this happen, that it's a lot to overcome. Especially you've already retired, you've started another business, a great opportunity to step aside. But I was hoping that you guys wouldn't. I was hoping what would happen is what we're hearing, and I like that. I love that. And I love y'all's relationship. I think it's important as a business owner to be able to have people that you can count on,
Right.
that they're for you, calling you in midnight, trying to get you on the phone. But I think it's just an incredible story for me.
Well, so
Yeah.
I want to go back just a little bit. I want to know a little bit more. I did a cursory glance of a little bit of what I could find about your beginnings, and there were some things written in there about your dad and where he was brought up. And I thought that was so very interesting.
Yeah.
Why don't you share with us a little bit?
Thank you for that opportunity. Pop was born and raised on the Biltmore Estate in Nashville. His parents were tenant farmers and on the dairy farm there. And so, you know, what a great opportunity for a kid born in 1925 to live there, and his parents to work there, and to, you know, we would go up at Christmas time because Pop and his best friend buried a coffee can full of dimes. So back in the 60s, when I was a kid, we'd go through the gates at Biltmore, and the guards would know Pop and they would say, "Jimmy, are you back again?" He said, "Yeah, but I got my metal detector with me this time. I think I know where they are." So he would go every year looking for that coffee can full of mercury-headed dimes. He never found those dimes.
Never
So they're
found
still there?
They are somewhere on the grounds.
Oh, there's lore here.
know.
I've learned that from our kids.
But the stories that he would tell at Christmas time, and now when it was time, the Vanderbilts would have. When you go to the house, there's a chimney, and it's big enough so that Santa Claus comes down the chimney, and Santa would come down the chimney, and
What?
everybody that lived on the estate that helped to make the dairy farm successful, all the kids were invited in on Christmas Day, and they could pick presents off the tree.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool story. That's just what a great way to have all this land to roam on when you're growing up as a kid, and so it's neat.
And those types of things, well, they just sit. Well, I know my dad used to do something similar. He would bury things in the yard. A lot of times they had money in them, and he would do the same. I think there's some still on the property we haven't found either, but they have.
There's still some money on where my mom and dad lived. There's still some money that Pop buried there. I know,
Yeah.
I know the area, but I don't know if I want to go over to the neighbor and say,
Excuse me.
"Mind if I got my shovel with me? I want to."
And my dad was so sneaky. He took one of those 5-gallon glass water jugs and put it under the house. And then he had a separate washing machine water line where the drain goes set up, and you didn't know it was legitimate or not. He would drop his change down that thing and fill that jug up underneath the house.
That's funny.
I've never heard
oh
of
my
anybody
soul,
doing that.
That's
a
during
lot
the
of change.
during the Depression,
Yeah.
and so people did things
yeah.
to get by and survive.
Is that the time? Oh, your dad was born in 1925, and then when he grew up, as soon as he could, he joined the military.
He did. He joined at 17. Told a little fib. He graduated from Biltmore High School, and next thing you know, they've got him in Europe, and he's flying in a B-25 Mitchell. It's
It's so interesting.
and he's a belly gunner,
Oh wow!
and
The ones that get down and
the one that get down in the turret. And he had 38 combat missions.
Wow!
And so the rule was that if you did 25,
you got to come home, right?
and
And he stayed.
he stayed. He said the job's not done. So he lived a great life.
Have you happened to see I think it's on HBO.
Masters of the Air.
Oh, it was Apple.
It
It was
is Apple.
Apple. Did you watch that?
I did watch it.
That was amazing.
And that was done by Spielberg and Tom Hanks.
Yes.
And because Spielberg's dad was in the Army Air Corps, we didn't have the Air Force then. It was called the Army Air Corps. And his dad got on to him and said, "Son, you've done something with the Army. You've done something with the Pacific, but you've not done anything with the Army Air Corps." And it took him, I read this somewhere, it took Spielberg about 10 years to put together this 7-part series, because everything they show in the movie is chronicled that it actually happened. And so they take this one bombardier group and go through it. So it's
an amazing show. If you have not
is.
seen it, you have to. We were so upset, my husband and I, that we'd have to wait every week for it. And he's like, "Has it come back out yet?" Like, it is honestly so good. So I learned a lot about, there were so many casualties in that particular squadron.
very fortunate to come back. And a shout out, so Pop's favorite place to go and hang out, because he wouldn't talk about his time, and I found out a lot about Pop and his flying career at the VFW. So that's where Pop hung out, and Pop would talk to his colleagues who, at that time with the VFW, still had World War II veterans. They would talk, and so that became his treehouse gang, and that has become my refuge. And the day after the fire, that was the first group that showed up. the VFW came and it was clockwork. They took everything out of that building. I didn't make a phone call. They just showed up. There was a chow line there. So there is a band of brothers and sisters that look after their own, and they certainly demonstrated that to me.
I'm speechless
Yeah,
a little
that's,
bit.
yeah.
I don't know what
Again,
to say.
another incredible thing about our community and communities like ours.
But
Are so
I mean, and also the armed forces. I mean, just I don't think that I know. I'm not even how to say I don't think. I know that our generation don't really give the respect and honor to our armed forces as your generation did. I mean, my grandfather was in World War II. He was in Europe. He wouldn't talk. My other grandfather on my mom's side, he was in Vietnam twice, and moved all, and he wouldn't talk about it. I mean, and then I would sit down and say, "Pop, tell me something," and he's like, "Baby, I can't."
Right.
And even with now the technology and how they're making movies, and I guarantee you it was worse than that. I mean, it's hard to watch sometimes as it is, but it had to be, a lot worse than that. And so I find it very personal to watch that. My uncle, career Navy, so just one Marine, one Army, one Navy. We didn't get Air Force, but
There's a strong group in Kernersville, and then when the chips are down, boy, they come up. And I mean, it's amazing what they do.
And here we are in July. It's a very patriotic month here. So anyway, that is awesome. And how do you? Do you believe that your work ethic, and because to go from principal to a restaurant owner like that, I mean, did you just say, I think I know how to run a restaurant, or it's just I know how to run organization, so I can do it?
It goes back to what Pop said: surround yourself with good people and get out of their way. I didn't know anything about a restaurant. I just wanted to do something, and it was a neat opportunity because Charlie Snow's was a very special part of my life, but I didn't know how to do it. Sometimes you just got to jump in, but Miss April was kind enough. We had another parent that was a cook at another restaurant, and he helped us to get started. And what was his favorite line?
He said, "Now I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you sure you want to do this?" And we had that quoted because he has since passed away. But we had that quoted, and all that I hope is saved. I think it was saved because it was right beside the grill, and it was his little hat. And that was his, and I took a picture of him, and that was his quote, because what were we thinking, to begin with? Because neither of us knew.
Sometimes it's good to be naive.
Yeah.
You just kind of jump in. Yeah.
Because you keep dreaming and you keep hoping, and I think that there's a wonder in that, living that way, and not just having some cutoff of retirement that says, no, I got to just be here till I'm not anymore. I love that zest.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I had no clue that April could cook, nor do I think that she knew at the time. But sometimes out of necessity, after we lost one cook after another, it's been a process. It's been pretty neat, though.
I can imagine it's probably not too much you can't get figured out. I kind of got that sense.
Yeah,
I think, which I think is, I'm married to one of those, so yeah, I know that. I'm not going to tell her no. It's all right. But what do you need me to do to help you?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
So I think that's great.
Going forward, what do y'all? If I said, Fitz, tell me what you need. April, tell me what you need. Because right now, this is going to circulate through especially the Kernersville community and the Triad community. And I know there's been some coverage on that, on what's happened to you in the media somewhat. tell us what you need.
You start first on that.
Oh, well, I mean, when the VFW came that day, right after the fire, before they even left, they said, we want to do a benefit for you guys. So that is Thursday
Okay.
after the parade on the 4th of July. I don't know when this will.
This is probably going to air a little bit after
Okay.
that, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. We may just put a snippet. So go ahead and tell about that.
Well, and we didn't even have the chance to say yes or no. They just said, we're doing it.
We're doing it,
And
yeah.
we said, okay. And that we've been in contact with them. And everybody that comes by says, oh, we're going on the 4th. We're going to come see you on the 4th. So, and it's been hard because so many people, start a GoFundMe. Go ahead and do this, do that. And I have been to him and I said, do you want to do this GoFundMe? Do you want to do this benefit? There's another at the Follies on the 28th.
Okay.
Are some bands coming together.
Oh, cool.
And so they're just going to play all day. And then we'll be there, to see people. I think it's more for us.
Yeah.
It's more about seeing everybody.
Yeah.
When I see people out, I saw some people at 66. I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you? Is everything good? Are you having a great vacation? Because we haven't been having those conversations that are every day. And, on the opposite side of that, when you're in the public, as we are, and we've been in that for 15 years, you have a lot of people that go on before you. And we've had so many people pass away. And, I was, for whatever reason, I do look at the obituaries, I'm sorry. And I was on the Pierce Jefferson site, and I'm like, the first 5 people on that site I knew because of Fitz on Main.
Right.
And because we're not there, we didn't know
And that
had happened.
that's
and so
impactful.
It is. And you just are thankful for the friends and the people that have come. And, I don't know.
Well,
We just need the continued support.
that's what we need.
The-
And people say the GoFundMe thing, and it's just not my gig. And I maybe it's them old school, but there are a lot of other people that are in need, and that's a very generous offer. And it may be my Irish heritage and my pride, but I'd rather for you to invest in people that really, really are down. And we can rebuild, and we will rebuild. There are a lot of other people that need resources. People have lifted our spirits, and so when we open back up, just come by and visit with us.
Okay.
We've had restaurants that say, "Look, we don't open until dinner. Why don't you do the morning and lunch shift?" Really?
to have Fitz on Main at their restaurant.
And I've had 3 offers from that's talking about the local community. So that's a story. We got 3 people that are 3 different businesses that are offering to open their doors so that we could continue our business. That's powerful. We get somebody that's selling their coffee and their proceeds are going to us, and we didn't ask that, and that's just out of the goodness of people's heart. And
that's Kyle, right?
Yep.
With
It's
Kyle.
Kyle. Sure is.
Yep.
It sure
Shout
is.
out to him because I did
Yes.
see that, and I think
It's
that's
very good. I took it to the beach.
Did you? Good.
I was at a Women in Business conference that the Chamber of Commerce of Kernersville put on, and some of the proceeds from that they made known they wanted to go to y'all. So
And speaking of the Chamber of Commerce,
Yes.
so we can't forget them shouting out those ladies, 3 of them. I should have sent you those pictures.
The next day.
The next day, the same day the VFW, the armed forces arrived. That's what we said, because really they stormed the restaurant. And before with them, I didn't get there till 10 o'clock that day because, of course, I hadn't been sleeping.
Right.
When I got there, everything was out of the restaurant. And everything. The refrigerators, everything. In 2 hours, they had gotten everything out. So it was crazy. And then the
Chamber of
girls from the
Commerce.
chamber are out there. Chris is sitting on the ground
I
washing
love
dishes.
her.
Washing dishes. And they're trying to just salvage anything. And they actually made a list of what she threw away. She's like, okay, down to
Wow.
3 bottles of ketchup. So we have a very detailed list. And I wasn't there. because it was a lot. It was just a lot for me dealing with the emotional side of it. This is the baby, and the baby is, what are we going to do now? And
Right.
at that point, you just didn't even know what you were going to do because it was such a shock.
The fire chief came by the next day and took just a photograph record of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so helpful for the insurance folks.
Oh, good.
And he put it on
A little flash
a
drive.
little flash drive so they could have it, because he knew that
would
somebody
need it.
down the line is going to need that.
Yeah.
So, this theme's about helping others, and we are blessed to live in a community where folks reach out when things get tough. There are a lot of people here, and I saw that and experienced it from a school standpoint. When we had kids that needed things, then I'd make a couple phone calls, and then I'd have to make a couple more phone calls a week later and say, okay, you can stop now because we've got everything we need. And that's why this is a very special place to call home.
So, suffice it to say, you're waiting until your restaurant's back up before, even though they were kind offers, you feel that you want to wait until the restaurant's back.
You just come by and break bread with us when we open back up.
Okay.
That's
'cause
what
it's too hard.
that's
Yeah.
what we want folks to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to build it back. And a lot of people say, well, why do you build it back? And then it's, not only is it, it's for the people too.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that, but I guess it's for the people. We got to have a place. We got to have our place back. It's like Pop's Treehouse Gang at the VFW. Yeah, we got to have the cafe back. So we'll build it back. It's going to be a while,
Well, we're here for it.
and we feel it. And we feel it so many times. Again, we're lucky.
Well, Fitz is a very special place, and to have my wife actually call me and tell me that, and then describe the people sitting
Yeah.
That's so funny.
and going behind them, and she talked about them being older, but I thought, I'm old. What are you talking about? And then your prices being so good, and just everything about it. Man, what a blessing!
What
really.
my husband
Thank you.
asked me to tell you today, he was like, I was so upset. I promised them I was coming back for breakfast, and I've never gotten
That's
to
right.
taste their
That's
breakfast.
right. Yes, he did. That's the last thing he said. He said, I'll be back for breakfast.
That's why I was upset on that Wednesday. I
yeah.
told you I pulled in the parking lot Wednesday and pulled in and got a phone call. I was going to come in and eat lunch,
On
and
Wednesday.
I got a phone call that pulled me away. And then the next morning, I actually thought the fire was next door when I came back through. It's like, oh no, there's something's going on. So yeah, I was upset
Well,
about that.
I want to say thank you for spending your time talking with us and sharing history. And it's cataloged now a little bit and preserved some of your past and how all of this came about. And we're with you, we're for you. And no matter, whatever you need, I'll show up for.
Yeah.
Maybe not asbestos, but
Removal. Yeah. We'll get a hazmat suit, and no,
I
we're
will.
good.
I will come and
We're
break
good.
bread.
Yes.
That
For
break
sure.
bread. Okay.
Yes.
That's the
And-
most important thing.
Again, it's an honor to have you and April on here. Thank you for what you've done, and what you're doing, and what you will do. All of you, both of you.
Thank
Your
you
whole
for the
crew.
opportunity
Yeah, thank you.
to allow us to share our story. It's worth
Absolutely.
sharing.
It
Thank
is
you.
worth sharing.
Yeah, and that's really what we're all about too.
Yeah.
Because exactly what we've experienced with you two, it's a great story, and it needs to be told. And there's more stories.
A
Right.
lot of ones out there.
Lot
There
of-
aren't.
yeah.
A lot of them.
They sure
and
are.
they're wonderful.
So to keep up with y'all, is Facebook the best
Yes.
way to do that?
Yes.
No website, right? Just
No
the-
website,
okay.
no.
Facebook.
Just Facebook. Follow Fitz on Main, and we try to update once a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody knows.
You do a good job on that too.
What's happening.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, I'm going to say to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Please go and follow Fitz on Main on Facebook And then also Legacy Podcast Studios on all Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe. If you want to continue to see more content like this, that hopefully is making a difference in not only your business, but your heart. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, bye.